Good morning. Welcome again to Morning Devotions, and thank you again so much for our time together. We're looking forward to you joining us in the revival nights as we continue to teach about seeking God, who may ascend the holy hill. We're having a wonderful time in the presence of God. So see you at main campus tonight, 7 o'clock sharp. Come early, spend some time seeking God. Let me take you back today to some very negative things in 1 Kings chapter 12 and 1 Kings chapter 13. Sometimes I call this three principles you will always see when people have turned away from God. When God's people turn away from God, there are some things that you will always see. First of all, you will always see that old heresies come back, but come back stronger. We see that in verse 28 of chapter 12. After seeking advice, the king made 2 golden calves. And he said to the people, "It is too much for you to go up to Jerusalem. Here are your gods, O Israel, who brought you up out of Egypt." Old failures, old sins become the seeds of heresy. And when they come back, they didn't come back with 1 golden calf. They came back with 2 golden calves. Now the principle is very simply this. The mistakes that men of God have made in the past become the seeds of the heresies in the future. And when they come back good measure, pressed down, shaken together, and running over. Second thing that you will always see is God will always have a true man of God who's probably a nobody from nowhere until God picks him up and uses him. And here we have this no-name prophet who God picks up and uses, and an altar breaks, and the king's hand shrivels, and the king is then healed, and great miracles are done by nobodies, because God always has a remnant. In the time, in the darkest hour when God's people have turned away, God always has a remnant. God always brings up no-name nobodies, and he anoints them with great power as a testimony of the reality of God in the face of God's people turning away. Now, if you're one of those new no-name people that God is raising up in the world today, just remember to watch out for the old prophets. Because if you'll remember in the rest of the story in chapter 13, the old prophet came and knew exactly what to say, knew exactly how to deceive the new, young, inexperienced prophet, caused him to disobey God, and he lost his life that day. The third thing that you always see is what I call the self-called ministry. We find that over in the last few verses of 1 Kings chapter 13. Even after this, Jeroboam did not change his evil ways, but once more appointed priests for the high places from all sorts of people. Anyone who wanted to become a priest, he consecrated for the high places. This was the sin of the house of Jeroboam that led to the downfall and its destruction from the place of the earth. A whole new religion started under the division of Judah and Israel. When Rehoboam split the kingdom and Jeroboam took the 10 tribes of Israel, a whole new religion started. Sometimes we call them today the Samaritans. A new temple was built in Samaria. They worshipped God in Samaria. They did not want people to go up to Jerusalem. But maybe the most damaging part of it all was a new self-called priesthood. Anybody who wanted to could become a priest. Not the tribe of Levi, not those that have showed by their consecration that they would put God before anything else in life. Just anybody who wanted to. When you look around the world today and you see so many of God's people turning to darkness, turning away from the kingdom, and a time in which the love of so many Christians are drawing cold, do we not see ancient mistakes, ancient errors of real men of God that became seeds for what is now modern heresy? Do we not see young nobody men of God rising up and showing people the power of God? And do we not see all across the world today people just forgetting that there is a supernatural call of God to the ministry, and anybody who wants to just appoints themselves as a spiritual leader? Let's stick with the Bible, folks. You're going to find that there's nothing new under the sun. You're going to find that everything that is happening today has happened before. God survived it all, and the kingdom of God will continue to grow strong.